Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Laura, and I'm the Director of Media Relations with the Gluten-Free Media Group. We're very happy you're with us today. As always, we invite you to take part in the conversation, so please ask questions, share comments using your GoToWebinar panel, and we will go through those at the end. And if for some reason we get disconnected today, please sign back in and we will continue on with the webinar. Our speaker today is Betsy Craig, CEO of Menu Trinfo. Betsy has over 30 years of food service industry experience and is a nationally recognized expert in food allergens throughout the supply chain. Her commitment to the betterment of the food industry and her desire to positively inform and affect the public are the driving force behind her company. And with that, I'm excited to turn it over to Betsy.
Well, hello everybody, and thank you, Laura, for the introduction. My name is Betsy Craig, and I get to be your host for the next little piece of time. So welcome to Certified Free From with Confidence, how to drive sales by using independent third-party certification. I am very glad you're here and look forward to spending a little time with you on all of this. Just a little bit, if I may, about who we are and what brought us to be with you today. Menu Trinfo is the core name of our company. It stands for Menu Nutrition Information. We started as a menu labeling, menu nutrition help desk-based company, and since then have rolled into doing AllerTrain, food handler class, and kitchens with confidence. Today, our focus is going to be on kitchens with confidence, but sometimes it helps people to understand how we got here instead of just all of a sudden popping up. You know, doing nutrition information for restaurants, we were able to start tagging allergens. And amazingly from there, I realized back in 2010, there was no specific training about food allergies or gluten-free in the industry at that time, and launched AllerTrain, which does both, teaches about food allergies and gluten-free. And from there, Kitchens with Confidence came about in 2014 and then had basically a rebirth in 2016, which is what we'll be talking about somewhat today. So one of the beautiful things about what we get to do is we get to protect and save lives. That is absolutely what we get to do on a daily basis as a result of our mission in life. So our mission at Menu Trinfo, based in Colorado, is to protect lives and help save lives through training and nutrition. So we do allergy training, we do food handler training, we do kitchen audits, and then we have launched within the last 12 months into this new area we're talking about today called Certified Free From. So Menu Trinfo is a proud partner of the following groups you see here. On the left are brands that we get to represent and brands we get to work with. When it comes to Marriott hotels, the top left logo there, we do nutrition information for them. We do online training for them, and they are a very trusted and thankful partner with us. As you can see, we have other brands. I'm sure you recognize some of those logos. And the two right smack in the middle there, Brookie's Cookies and Allie's Gluten Free, are the first two products that we have launched Kitchens with Confidence certification with in the last year to 18 months. We are also partners with a number of folks you can see on the right. And Seasonally Fresh, for those that haven't seen that logo before, they're based out of California. That's probably our newest partner. And what they do is recommend certification and accreditation in the food industry. Super helpful. We really, really enjoy working with Seasonally Fresh. So today we are going to do these 5 different areas, just to give you an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about consumers, regulations, market, blueprint for certification, and then what's your call to action. And from there, we'll be able to have a discussion, hopefully, about what your needs are and what I have seen and what we are seeing as an industry. So here we have a poll question, and Laura's going to help facilitate the poll question. And Laura, please let me know when it's time to advance. If you would, please. Laura, take it.
Okay, the first poll question is, do you have products that are free from one or more of the top 8 allergens? So please take a few seconds to type in your answer.
Laura, I think we should have Jeopardy music right now.
That would be a nice addition.
Like background. So I'll open up the window and let you see the lake that's behind me.
All
Oh,
right, here are the results.
awesome. I love how quick this is. This is great. Yes, we do. No, we don't. Products are in the works and we are thinking about it. Wow, look at that. 65% say yes, we do. That's a whole bunch of yes, we do. Let me see if I apologize about this. Want to go ahead and make sure I can move on. There we go. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump into the consumers. That's the area that we're looking at right now. So when it comes to consumers, I'm sure many of you on this webinar know this, but I'm going to just lay down some framework so everybody's on the same page to start. Every 3 minutes, someone's admitted to the ER for a food allergic reaction. That means, what will we have, 20 people while we're on this webinar? Webinars, something like that. Unfortunately, it happens. It happens every day. It happens many, many, many times a day. It is probably the biggest nightmare for those with food allergies. There are 170 foods that are known to cause an allergic reaction, and I have seen that number go up since we started, and I expect it to go up in the very near future. There's been some studies that have gone on that have made it be 170 seems to be a lowball number compared to what folks are allergic to and what we're hearing about. 15 million Americans have a food allergy. That's a whole lot of Americans with food allergies. 1 out of 13 kids has a food allergy. So in every standard classroom today, at least 2 children or more, maybe 2.5 children are sitting there with a food allergy. This is a gigantic market. Any way you look at it, it's a huge market. 25 billion is the cost of caring for just kids alone with food allergies. You know, I look at it and it just is mind-blowing what's going on with food allergies and then how the industry is or isn't responding. And you folks on this call are people that are manufacturers that are responding. You're on the cutting edge of this, so this is awesome. And while we're transitioning here, I do want to remind you, you are super welcome to put a question in the chat box, and then Laura will feed me those at the end. So like that, I put feed in there. Okay, let's talk for a second about gluten-free. 10% of Americans eat gluten-free. 1 in every 10 diners eats gluten-free. Now this survey, this photo comes from Forbes magazine. And those folks that are in the green category are people who avoid gluten without celiac. So they're just choosing on different levels for different reasons to avoid gluten. The orange folks, kind of in the middle, are undiagnosed celiac. And then the yellow are those with diagnosis of celiac disease. What's interesting is watching that transition through the years. So the numbers of folks diagnosed with celiac disease from 2009 to 2014 went from 5% to 16%. That's a huge, huge jump in just a very short 6 years. But what's really awesome about this chart is that folks with undiagnosed celiac disease have gone way down. So they're either choosing to eat gluten-free because they want to, or they have been diagnosed. It's kind of, it's sort of been settling out. By the way, this is also the reason that gluten-free is going nowhere. The first time I ever spoke about gluten-free at a restaurant show to a bunch of C-level execs back in 2010, I had someone tell me gluten-free is a fad diet. Nobody's going to do it. I saw all the eye rolls. And I stood my ground. I said, you know what? I think they're onto something, and I think this is going somewhere. And here we are all these years later. It is not going to go away. We have definitely seen it in the restaurant space. We're completely seeing it in the retail space. And it has just launched to crazy levels for gluten-free, which is wonderful if you're choosing to eat gluten-free or if you need to eat gluten-free. So the next group of pictures, again, just level setting, making sure everybody's on the same page, talking about the same information. In the United States, we have something called the Big Eight, the top eight. Those are the Big Eight allergens. And then we added sesame down in the bottom right picture, mainly because I'll tell you what, as folks that do nutrition for restaurants, we get asked about sesame all the time. But the ones excluding the bottom right picture of our little Brady Bunch chart here are the Big Eight allergens: peanut, milk, egg, soy, fish, tree nut, shellfish, and of course, wheat. Now, we have a number of different consumers that want free from, and they want free from for different reasons. We are seeing folks that want free from for, let's take the first one, for kids. They want free from because their children are allergic to peanuts or tree nuts. They are dealing with allergies. They are dealing with, I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. I'm back with you. They're dealing with allergies. They're dealing with reactions, be it mild or severe, and they are truly looking for free from peanut and or tree nut. Next, let's talk for a second about free from milk. People are choosing to stay away from milk or dairy for a number of different reasons. IBS, GI issues, skin, rashes. There's all kinds of reasons dairy is a no-no for a whole bunch of different people. And then finally, we're choosing to stay away from free from for gluten. Those with celiac, those who have celiac disease or have a sensitivity to gluten, or folks who have an allergy, of course, to wheat. And if we do another poll question here, that would be great.
All right, so the next poll question, how many allergens is your product free from? All right, here are the results.
Sorry about this. I'm going to go ahead and make sure. Here we go. For some reason, I was having a little trouble transitioning that last slide deck. I want to make sure that people can see this slide. Is everything good, Laura?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Thanks. All right. So let's move on. Oh, I didn't even pay attention to the results. What were the results, Laura? Can you help me, or is it gone?
I can help you. 6% said one top allergen, 72% two or more,
Wow.
6% do not have products free from at this time, and 17% with the final option.
72% two or more of the top allergens. Holy cow. See, that's why just gluten-free is not enough. Okay, thank you, Laura. Thank you very much for that. Sorry, folks. I was like, something's going on with my slide deck, people. So we will continue on. It's so interesting to learn that the majority of you have products that are free from more than one allergen. It just really, it makes total sense given the industry, but I love it. So certification equals confidence. So we put those seals on all kinds of things, be it food. I always call it the good housekeeping seal of approval. And so when something is organic in our country, the FDA mandates that you can call something organic. You can use the logo you see in the bottom left of your screen if it's one of 4 different topics or one of 4 different products made a certain way. And the 4 areas are, it needs to be 100% organic. It needs to be made with organic ingredients. It needs to contain only organic sourced information or 70% organic and listed on the ingredient list. It's pretty amazing to me. It's amazing to me, to be quite frank, that the FDA finally came out with what's organic, but we're not done. And we're not done because there's big, huge discussions over clean and healthy. And we've got a lot of other terminology we're using in products in our country that may or may not fly when it comes to the FDA. So third-party verification is basically letting the expert from out of town generally declare your product and your food is good and safe. And at MenuTrimfo, we've been using certifications and certificates for years. We started by doing certified free from for gluten-free. Most of the restaurants we dealt with said they had gluten-free menus and they weren't totally gluten-free. So we helped a lot of restaurants, and still do all the time, come up with gluten-free menus on our nutrition side of the house. Next, we started Kitchens with Confidence to go in and see if a location could be deemed as gluten-free or allergy safe. Great example on this is recently, about 2 years ago, we certified Cornell University has an entire dining hall that's free from tree nut, peanut, and gluten. We do that with a lot of college campuses around the country, have just started doing it with a couple of camps. And that's obviously how we got to be with you folks on products today. We also came up with Allertrain for Manufacturers. So Allertrain for Manufacturers is a course that allows the people that are making your food, you can be assured if they've taken a training about allergens that they understand the importance of it, or at least they've been taught to understand the importance of it. I guess we can never make sure they fully, but they're at least taught. And then finally, we have what we call the wheel. We call that the wheel in the office. In the bottom right of your screen, that's certified free from. That is our logo and the seal that goes on products. And all of those are the big 8 allergens. And when something is free from one of those allergens, it's lit up with the white. And when it's not, it's darkened out. So the wheel might only have peanuts showing if your product is simply free from peanuts. But with 72% of you folks having 2 or more products it's free from, you would have a multitude of items lit up there, and the rest would simply be darkened out. I don't know if any of you played Trivial Pursuits, but that's where we got the idea, and we love this wheel, that's for sure. Certification allows competitors to have a significant marketing advantage. When you're going to look for a product on a shelf, something that has a seal or a certificate, folks understand those and can trust those. We saw it happen with certified gluten-free. Years ago, nobody really even knew what that symbol was, 10 years ago, and now it's the go-to. So again, feel free to throw your questions in there and we will get to those at the end. Regulations, let's touch on regulations. So this is an area that gets a little sticky for folks because it's complicated. It's complicated and it's constantly changing. I wish it wasn't, but it is constantly changing. It changes sort of at a snail's pace, but then it's almost like a shocker when it happens. Just as one example, and I don't even think I touch on it in this particular webinar, so I'll just give you a second on it. There's a township in New Jersey that Edison Township just decided that by April 1st, every single menu had to identify any of the big 8 allergens that are in their menu items. So if you have a food allergy and it's one of the big 8, go to Edison, New Jersey after April 1st, because all the restaurants are going to tell you what you can and can't eat. I mean, that just came out of nowhere. It went through and got passed, and now April 1 is the date. Let's talk for a second about current regulations. We have FALSPA, and everybody talks about Food Allergy Labeling and Consumer Protection Act. FALSPA is super helpful in that it allows us some basics. So let's review the basics. It was enacted, it was introduced and passed in 2004, enacted in 2006. It pertains only to the Big Eight, and it allows folks to be able to flip an item and see if inside that food any of the Big Eight are there.
All right, here comes our third poll question. Do you have a precautionary statement on your label today?
And just a little cheat sheet, precautionary means may contain, made in a facility that does contain, that sort of thing. Wow, 53% said yes. So interesting. So interesting. Thank you, folks, for answering that question. Appreciate that. Oops. There we go. Okay, no idea why that's. Sorry about this. Here we go. There we go. Current regulations. I apologize about going backwards. I dropped that. Current regulations for gluten-free. I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, are aware, but let me just restate again to set the bar. Gluten-free regulations finally did come out of DC, and the gluten-free regulations are such that says gluten-free can be one of four things: naturally gluten-free, not made with gluten-containing grains, not derived from gluten-containing grain. So in other words, you don't process it to remove the gluten. And then the fourth regulation out of FDA says you can process it to remove the gluten, but you must end up with the food product being 20 parts per million or less, and that is justified to call it gluten-free. If you have a product that marks at 20 ppm or more, you cannot call it gluten-free. And what's interesting is in this space, the FDA came out with what you can and can't call things. Like you can say gluten-free, or you can say without gluten, free of gluten, and no gluten. Like those are the terminologies, according to the FDA, that you are allowed to call a product. What's interesting is it finally passed and the regulations came out in 2013. They were active in 2014. And as I made a note, the regulations for gluten-free are stronger than the regulations for food allergies, which goes to speak to a couple things. One, it speaks to how strong the consumer drive is, because this consumer drive on gluten-free just shocked the food world. And not just shocking the food world with gluten-free, the folks that are choosing to eat gluten-free, whether it's a diet or health or for whatever reason, it's a strong group of folks. And obviously you on the call understand it's a loyal group of folks too. The food allergy community is coming right up behind you, and that's where the free from comes. So I got to talk about lentils for a second, just to make sure everybody on the call knows about that. Here's one of the challenges that we have. One of the challenges that we have in the industry is sometimes food is naturally gluten-free, but then it gets in a place where it's cross-contacted with other grains, and that completely trashes the gluten-free outcome. And there's just a heads up and a warning about watching out for lentils right now. And the two brands you see here are not the only two brands that we're talking about this with lentils. So just a word of warning to be very, very careful about grains that may contain as a result of cross contact in the field. And then finally, I did ask, where these verified gluten-free and verified purity tested come from, and they come from one of these two manufacturers. And the manufacturer states that it's less than 5 parts per million on the gluten-free lentils. Okay, so let's talk for a second about some updates here on the food allergen calling out. Um, the FDA and USDA had a meeting. It was a day-long meeting at the FDA in Washington, D.C., actually at the USDA building in D.C., but it was with pretty much all the stakeholders that have an opinion about what we're doing with this free from industry, with what we're doing to tag foods to say this is dairy free or this is safe to eat if you have this allergy or, that sort of thing. So we all go for the day. And what was pretty amazing, a couple things happened there that I want to absolutely share with you. Number one, there's a big push in the US to make sesame another big allergen. That would make it the big nine. There has to be legislation to make it one of the big nine because the big eight were enacted through Congress and brought in by law. And as the gentleman from the USDA told me, because I asked the question about why aren't we making sesame number nine? It's a huge push. We have a lot of people that want that. And his response was, well, it's going to take an act of Congress. Do you think we're going to get that done right now? Which is a great point, but very sad state of affairs. Also, coconut is listed as a tree nut with the FDA. And there are two very strong schools of thought that coconut is a tree nut and that coconut is not a tree nut. FDA says it's on our list. We're calling it a tree nut. You have to declare it. Most folks with tree nut allergies, coconut is not one that bothers them. I have met two people so far since 2010, since we started doing this, that have a coconut issue and an allergy with coconuts. Fully respect them. However, the standard is not that. Finally, one of the things that came up when I was with the FDA in 2017 was how do we do free from? Because we already had the certified gluten-free seal out there that's become the standard, but nobody's done the free from, which is why we didn't launch our company's division until within the last year after this meeting, actually, because we can call something certified free from if we follow certain steps, regulations, and rules, and we keep consistent, and we are the experts on it. And so those conditions are all met, which is how we launched this side of our business. The final thing I want to talk about regarding updates and laws and food allergens is that just this past July, the end of July, a couple months ago, there was a day-long meeting in Montgomery County, Maryland, at a hotel put on by the FDA, and it was all about what are we calling products? Clean, healthy, free from, gluten-free. I mean, you name it, and it was talked about that day because the FDA is trying to still get its arms wrapped around what can or can't be called gluten-free and what can and can't, free from with the allergens, as well as other healthy halo claims. So transparency is the new regulations law. Oops. Transparency is the king. In Missouri, and some of you I know have vegan products, so this might interest you. In Missouri, the Missouri Cattlemen's Association, about 2.5 weeks ago, just put down a law in the state of Missouri that says if it's not meat, you can't call it meat. They're very staunch on that. They're tired of meat being on the menu with quotations or some other kind of cute name for meat. They feel that if it's meat, it should be a product that they represent, or else it shouldn't be called meat. And then final thought, and I want to touch on this because I realized I omitted it here a few moments ago, the precautionary allergen labeling. So the may contain statement. So we asked how many of you have a may contain statement on your menu. It is not you are not legally obligated ever to put that on your label, on your menu, on anything. However, it's a disclaimer, and we understand that in the industry. The problem is, and this is becoming more and more trouble for folks, the more they see may contain on their products, the less likely they are to pay attention to it. And that's a challenge because they are the ones that need it the most, people with food allergies, but we become numb to it. So certainly worth thinking about. So the world market has gone nuts. We are started in $1.7 billion industry, and now this last couple years we're coming close to $20 billion, and this is in the specialty food industry, and that's billion with a B. I mean, it is gigantic what's happening in our space. So you folks are in the right place at the right time. So let's talk why consumers are choosing to go. The first one was consumers that needed to go free from. The consumers that are choosing to go free from, you can see a couple of the main reasons right here. We have first off vegan. Folks that are choosing to eat vegan it's exploding. The vegan food business is, no pun intended for food allergy folks, but it's going nuts. I mean, it really is going crazy. Next, we have the healthy halo. We have folks that are trying to go healthier, eat cleaner, go GMO free, organic. A lot of people that want free from for different reasons in that space, and so they turn to free from because it's easy. And then finally, folks that are going free from fish, shellfish, milk, and eggs. Empathy diets, ethical diets, experimental diets. I call those the 3 E's, empathy, ethical, and experimental. What are we going to do? How are we going to try it out? We see this so much on college campuses, so that's why they're trying new products. Let's talk for just a moment on vegan cheese. Okay, so vegan cheese, it's pretty amazing. The entire industry for vegans today last year is $3.1 billion. Cheese only by 2024 is going to be $4 billion. 6 years from now, the entire industry will be blowing up. However, just cheese, is going to be a $4 billion industry. Recently met a couple that opened a vegan restaurant in Loveland, Colorado, very close to our home base. Blown away. They've got 6 different kinds of cheese. I was like, okay, do you guys know what you got here? Because this is going to go nuts. And that's why products that aren't just free from allergens, but can also be deemed as vegan are super helpful and a win. The challenge is a lot of nuts are used in place, so we kind of walk a tight line on that one. So let's look for a minute about driving revenue. Gluten-Free Certification Org put out a survey to 5,000 consumers, and you can see some of the results right there, that when people are out looking for foods they trust, brand loyalty is 97%. That's why you guys want to make sure to capture this diner, this food, this consumer. You want them to pick yours up over anything else on the shelf, because once they do and fall in love with it, the brand loyalty, you've got a customer for life. And then huge amounts of people, 76%, and I even argue that that's not totally accurate. I would say it should be higher. Look for third-party certifications. They flip the package over, they look to see the nutrition label, and then they look to see who's told them it's safe to eat. Making up different logos and symbols are fine, but people know the difference. The consumer is very smart today. We have Google in our pocket. Understanding the free from shopper, more than half all gluten-free consumers are also looking for free from something else. So if celiac disease only affected folks with the protein gluten, fine, but the truth, well, it still wouldn't be fine, it's still a pain, but the problem is those with celiac disease generally have another item they need to stay away from, and that becomes the challenge. So let's look at the resources for consumers. Consumers have 3 different places, plus about 1 million others on Google, but 3 places here in the US to get firm, solid information. FAIR, who we're partners with, and the Food Allergy Research and Education, ourselves. You can go on our website and see what colleges we've been certifying, as well as food products and manufacturers. That list is about to explode. And then Snack Safely. Dave's company over there, he has been at this for a couple of years, helping to endorse and support those that support eating safely. So I already explained what the wheel looks like, and so this is just a close-up for folks as far as what a certified free from wheel would look like on your product. Okay, let's do one more poll question and then we will hop into certification.
All right, here's the next poll question. What type of facility do you produce your products in?
Interesting. I'd love to know what the other is for folks. If you can message, that'd be great. Dedicated facility, co-packer, and cottage. There we go. Okay, so let's move along with certification and what's involved in certification. Interesting. So we have 5 areas that we look at when it comes to an allergy control plan. And that is identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. So identify, have a goal, have a plan inside your facility, whether you're a dedicated facility or a co-packer. It's extremely important to have a goal and a plan. HACCP plans are great, but we like to call them ASSET plans, allergy critical control point. Do you have one of those? Do we know where the allergens are? Protect, so it's proper setup. Do we need to put a barrier around? Are we in a colo facility, in a co-pack facility, co-located with other food items being produced? Is there a way to protect yours over any allergen containing items? And I'll get into that a little bit more in a few minutes as I get deeper into some of this. But the third area, detect. Are we testing? Are we testing every batch? Are we testing every run? Are we testing every day? What is the testing protocol? And how often and how well are you testing? Now, we never want a positive to come up when all we want is negatives in that area. But if we do get a positive, how are we responding? How are we fixing where the cross contact happened? Where did it happen? And then how do we recover from an incident? How do we recover from finding a negative or a positive come up when all we want in this case is negatives? So we call it from source to shelf, which I really like that. It gives you a good visual from the field to the table, if you will. In the restaurant business, they call it farm to fork. It's the same idea. However, in our space, these are the 4 areas that we pay closest attention to when it comes to certification. So let's start here with sourcing. That all supplies, these are the top 4 tips we have for sourcing. And when we come to an audit, we go into excruciating detail on everything because we need to make sure, we need to make sure that every single I is dotted, T's are crossed, and you are set for success for your product and your consumer. The top 4 areas that we pay attention to the most in sourcing is that all suppliers have a documented allergen control plan themselves. So where do you get your raw ingredients, and do they have an allergen control plan? Number 2 is range of allergenic products with each supplier. So in other words, if you're buying a product from a supplier that also runs an allergen created product, do you know about it? What's their protocol for running it? I'll give you an example of that here in a second. Number 3 is what's their clean program and protocol? So how are they cleaning? How are they, running their machinery through on a daily basis and their lines through on a daily basis? And your ingredients, where do they fall in the line as before they come to you? And then finally, is everybody getting trained at that manufacturing facility? Do they have allergy training? Do they have gluten-free training for their workers so that they fully understand and comprehend the depth of what it means, especially when it comes to co-packers? So I put on my notes to talk for just a second about substitutions. A lot of challenges happen when your supplier needs to substitute because they can't get it from their supplier. So you're stuck with a choice. Do I keep making a product or do I hold until we can get the raw ingredients? It's a very, very tough choice, but when it comes to food allergens, it's an easy answer. So next, let's talk for a second about storage. Storage is kind of simple. I won't spend too much time on storage other than to say it's really a huge issue when you're co-located in a co-pack facility with others. But separate storage lids, colors, and racks. So where is your stuff stored? Where's the raw ingredients stored? Do you have lids for every container? Are the lids always on? I mean, some of those are the basic questions, but believe it or not, they're the biggest areas that we see challenges in storage. Is lids just simply not on when they're supposed to be on. So let's look to production. Production, I think there's probably 143 things just with production. Like, it's amazing how much we pay attention to in a certification process when it comes to production. But to kind of bring it down to 4 things I want to teach you today, I would say number 1, barring everything else, flow of food. From loading dock to package, what's the flow of food? From raw ingredient to storage to production to packaging, how is that food transmitted to go from a raw ingredient to your great product to some consumer's tummy at home once they ingest it? Shared equipment, massive issues. Massive issues. However, done right, can be done like a rock star, and you can have a great product in a shared facility if it's done right. There's so much on that to talk about. I don't have the time to do it, but that's part of what we do when we certify someone, is we work through all those little and huge and big issues. Processing water or oil. So if you have, if you're cooking your product to make it ready for jarring or make it ready for packaging, is there cross-contact opportunity within the cooking process? And then finally, barriers. Can there be barriers or something like that used to stop from cross-contact happening? I want to give you an example. And by the way, all of this is just really the tip of the iceberg, but I want to give you a great example. There's a company out there, I'm sure you all recognize it. It's called Bob's Red Mill. And one of the things that they do is they do have products that are, not free of all the big 8. However, their production setup is such that when they run product, they run pounds and pounds and pounds of product through. They clean, then they run pounds of clean product through and donate the first, I don't know, X number of pounds of that product to a facility saying this may or may not be gluten-free, this may or may not be whatever. And then they run their regular products. So they've cleaned the lines the way you're supposed to clean a line, and then they've checked by testing right before they start packaging the final clean product to go to the shelves in the supermarket. So what is the production facility doing to make it the best for all? So we have a poll. There we go. Do you see how being certified free from can help make your messages clearer? Awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's something that's been needed for years and years in the industry. So that's why we're doing it. Go ahead and shrink that down. There we go. Okay. So finally, I'm going to touch on packaging and labeling. Valspa makes it really, really simple when it comes to allergens. It's got to be in, let me go back, I'm sorry. In the packaging and labeling, there we go. The common name has to be listed on the ingredient panel. The really big challenge that we all face in this space is imported food. So we've got two labeling challenges. One is their raw ingredients to you, Mr. Manufacturer, and second is your ingredient panel to the consumer. And both steps along the way we have like gobs of experience dealing with. And it's been wonderful to be able to share that and use that for good. Sometimes it just comes down to just literally going to look at a location, going to look at a manufacturer, or suggesting that the manufacturer be changed, saying you can't, use that manufacturer and keep your certification because that manufacturer now says they're going to start processing whatever, and they don't have the protocol in place. It's hard because people want what they want, and manufacturers want what y'all want because it tastes great and it's awesome. The problem is that you don't want a brand-ending event because you didn't want to change based on what they wanted to add to their product. So, co-packer facilities. So when we go into co-packers, and again, there's so much, I could do a whole talk just on co-packer facilities for you guys, but I'm just going to touch on it for a couple minutes today and tell you that co-packer facilities you can get certified free from if you use a co-packer. But there's a number of things that have to be paid attention to and very, very strongly. Testing, runs, knowledge, and an allergen control plan. So there is increased amounts of testing that has to be done at a co-packer facility, that the way the runs are done and when the food is run on which lines, who's knowledgeable, who's been trained at that facility. Are they even willing to be trained? Are they disinterested in training? I mean, it's so telltale what happens in one of these facilities just by their reaction to these kind of questions. And then finally, just like the HACCP plan, having an allergen control plan. So we've got a couple calls to action here for you folks that have been with us, and then we'll jump onto a couple questions here. But first, I want to say, I want to read what Brookie's Cookie said about us because I think it was kind of cool and interesting, and she's awesome. We first contacted Kitchens with Confidence because we wanted to give our clients 100% assurance that our products were safe for those with nut allergies. Brookie's Cookies in New York receives many requests for nut-free treats, especially for children. And although we are selective with our ingredients, wanted to give parents and those with nut allergies peace of mind when choosing a product. It is very, very true that, just because you say it's safe to eat doesn't mean the consumer is going to trust you. So that's why third-party outside entities coming in help give another level of confidence. And I don't know where my lines went on this slide. I apologize about that. But you can see here some of the different options for accreditation certification. And of course, I do think that we are the best in this space. I also think that we are the only ones in the country doing certification for the big 8 allergens. And I'm pretty excited to see where we're going with it, and super excited to see great manufacturers willing to spread the good news with your products. And our wheel, it's a beautiful thing. So third-party validation, you have seen a lot of the stuff over on the right. Some of you have seen quite a bit of the stuff from Menu Trimfo, but finding an auditor, what is next? So what's next? You're welcome to contact us. We follow a number of different steps. We review ingredients. We will come on site. At times we will train while on site with the manufacturers, and we do an annual certification that's kept up annually. We do much like you're probably used to already if you have a gluten-free certification. It's very, very similar to that. And then here's something from our alley. I credit the folks at Kitchens with Confidence for knowing their stuff about food allergies, but also for recognizing when others do as well. They're not shy about giving others kudos and input and knowledge, and knowledge of particulars, and are always quick to encourage sharing amongst peers. And Allie's gluten-free goodies are also in New York. We have a lot of things in New York, and we're based in Colorado, but Allie's a great one to talk to if you're interested in finding out more about her experience with us and going through the process of accreditation. And finally, here's our final poll question, then we'll get into questions and answers. Are you hungry for more information from Kitchens with Confidence? Yes, no, maybe in the future. Still need that Jeopardy music, I think. Couple yes, couple no. Fabulous. So I just realized I could do that. There we go. So now it's time for questions. Laura, do you have any questions queued up?
We do. We had several come in throughout the presentation, so I'm going to start at the top. The first question is, for a new startup, what should be considered, and how much are the costs for the seals?
For a new startup, what should be considered? I don't know what that refers to as far as what to be considered, which steps to take. And our cost starts around, I want to say $19.99, and then goes based on SKUs. So it's a couple $1,000s to get certified with us. And then we use a multiplier of however many SKUs you're putting the wheel on. So if it's just one product, it's not crazy. If it's 101, we like to talk to you offline and see if we can't work out whatever price you need.
Great. Okay, the next question is, the allergen-free wheel recognized by the USDA and allowed on meat products?
It's a really great question. So no, the wheel is not recognized by USDA, as they had never even heard of the idea till I shared it with them while I was in DC a year and a half ago. I could tell you that 2 regulators from USDA thought it was a brilliant idea, and they were the ones that said, you can do it, you just got to put your company name on it, which we did. We added the name at the bottom. And I don't know if it would, I mean, I don't know about the meat. I'd have to ask. I mean, the seal can go on anything. Gluten-free can go on anything. Organic can go on anything. It's just a matter of how much real estate you have on a meat package.
We had a question come through asking if you had recommendations for finding manufacturers in New York.
So we deal with different manufacturing companies through those that we certify, and we're pretty careful about not revealing who the manufacturers are, because if you know our clients and you know the kind of food they make, we don't want to give out trade secrets. Yeah, the intellectual property that manufacturers have is the most valuable intellectual property is their recipe and their ingredients. So yes and no. Sometimes we'll get asked a specific, like, do you know somebody that does this or makes this? And we'll give a list of 5 names because we don't want to say, yeah, this is the one we always recommend, because then you'll know who everybody's using.
Okay, this next question was followed up by, since it's a specific question, the asker says you guys can discuss it offline as well, but I'm going to go ahead and read it out loud. This brand has less than 5 parts per million and a paleo certification. Their plant is USDA inspected with a HAACP plan in place and has an SQF third-party audit annually. Is there a process for allergen-free certification that allows their plant that's already been trained and has strict processes and is already sort of doing everything possible to ensure a safe process?
So congratulations and kudos to whoever that is. Like, that's awesome. Having a HACCP plan, SQF, all of that is training. All of that's awesome. We don't take anybody's word for anything, so we need to see it with our eyes for our seal to be on your product, for our wheel and our seal to be there, because all of that makes it really simple and easy to do. But I'm sure you can understand that we don't take anybody else's word for it.
All right, let's see. This person wants to know the ideal certification that's needed to start. So for a new startup company, what do you think is the ideal certification to begin with?
Well, I would say that has to come from your SWOT as a startup business. So we started our business in 2010, and the first thing we did was figure out where our consumers were and what their interests were. So I would say whatever product market you're going towards, what is the most desired? Are they looking for natural? Are they looking for organic? Are they looking for free from? Are they looking for gluten free? Are they, I can't answer that. Maybe offline, and that's why I flipped to the next slide so that you could shoot me an email. info@menutrinfo.com will find its way to me, and be happy to talk with you some offline. But I think your analysis of coming into the market would probably be your first indicator.
Okay, next question here. How do I get the word out to our consumers if we get certified free from with Kitchens with Confidence?
Oh, that's a great question. It's amazing. Just simple social media and a press release are amazing to begin with. But I have to tell you, the consumers are showing up at the shows put on by this group in droves. And it started as just a couple shows. Now there's tons. There's 10 a year or something. Laura, you can correct me. And the aisles are packed with consumers looking to try new products and taste new products and see what they can trust. So simple things like a table tent at your display showing the wheel of what you're free from, or the social media angle or the press release angle. Those are probably my top 3 thoughts on that.
Great, thank you. Okay, if we become certified free from, do we have to tell you any changes we make along the way to our own products?
Every single change. Yes. So one of the auditors will come out and work with you at your facility and get you through the certification process. But part of that process includes a fully detailed list of what goes in your food under a confidentiality agreement, of course. And then any alterations to those ingredients have to be noted and approved by that auditor before making the change.
Okay, I think this is our final question. Are our recipes protected?
So yeah, Menu Trinfo, we started as a nutrition company, and you can imagine large brands across the country that we get to work with. They don't want their special recipes out there in the world because their special sauce is their company's special sauce. And we have worked with some of the best in the industry. So we have learned how to protect information, keep it confidential behind multiple firewalls, and then protect what is your trade secrets. So yes, absolutely.
We have a follow-up question on one of the previous questions. What does Kitchens with Confidence do for companies that have the certification with them to promote those companies?
So not tons, to be quite frank. You're on our website. We let other folks know about you that way, but our job is to certify you. We can list you. We have a new website coming out November 10th. Unfortunately, it keeps getting pushed, but I think we're really going to see it November 10th. And on that, we will be listing every single product that wants to be listed that we have certified. However, our business is more business to business, and so we don't affect the consumer the way you might. If we did, we'd do more of it. But unfortunately, business to business is different than business to consumer.
All right, I think that's all the time we have today. So please look out for a follow-up email shortly that will include a recording of today's webinar if you wanted to go back and look at a section. Also, please reach out to Betsy at that email address right there. On behalf of the Gluten-Free Media Group, we thank you so much for joining us today, and we will connect with you again soon.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you all.